Hi, my name is Bobby Quinn, and today I want to share my analysis of the attempted assassination of former President Trump using never-before-seen drone footage from the point of view of the water tower, as well as mapping software to accurately place points of interest on a map and measure the distances between them. Given the sensitive nature of the topic, I feel that it's important and necessary to make a disclaimer. I'm a geospatial and aerial imagery analyst by background. I was compelled to make this video because there are a lot of opinions online that are not rooted in data. I wanted to use my skills to provide more accurate data and help validate or invalidate some claims, specifically if a second shooter could have been present at the water tower at the time of the shooting. I have no political affiliation. I was a war fighter. I spent 13 years in the military and 2 years as a contractor flying drones in Afghanistan. I think most politicians are corrupt, and I don't trust what the government tells us at face value because agencies are known to sterilize public information to control narratives. I do believe that increasing the ubiquity of electronic devices is making it harder for nefarious activity to go undetected. With that, I believe it's incredibly important to democratize this data and equally important for skilled volunteer analysts to interpret and analyze available data. In my opinion, this is how we hold our governments accountable when they are less than transparent with us. After all, they're accountable to us, not the other way around. So without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at the analysis. This is QGIS. This is an open source mapping software. I've gone ahead and I've collected an image that is straight down directly overhead of the Trump rally. And doing that, I'm able to create visible ground control points to bring this into a mapping environment. So this is a GeoTIFF. It's a rectified version of a JPEG. For accuracy, we'll turn it on and off, and you can see what it looks like underneath. And let's go ahead and do that here. So just a couple reference points here. You see this white box. This white box was moved when the rally was put into place. We turn that on. You can see the ground markings of the square of that white box. For accuracy, turn that on, turn that off. You see the placement of that. And next thing is this street, this road here. This is a grass path that was actually paved prior to the rally. And this paved area here in front of the hangars is also noticeable in the image. We'll turn that back on for reference. There you go. There's the path. There's the back path. And then you have, of course, the bleachers and then the straight stage where Trump was present. So we'll zoom out and we'll just take a look at the lay of the land. I should back out and say that this is Butler Farm Show Airport. This is in Pennsylvania. And we're going to zoom in to the north side of the airport where you have the AGR buildings where Crooks, allegedly the shooter, was placed at the time of the shooting. The water tower in question is just to the northeast of that AGR building. And then, of course, you have your rally area, which is south of the shooting. We have a few points of interest here that I'll talk about. President Trump is on the stage. Here we have Corey, the firefighter that was unfortunately shot and killed in the grandstand stage left. We have the shooter position on top of the AGR building here facing towards the rally site, and then the tower position. Now we're going to go ahead and turn on a couple of lines that we've created between these points to measure the distances between them. Before we go into these lines, we want to talk about the nature of this video, why the analysis was done. Specifically, I wanted to talk about this video. In this video, you see footage during the rally on top of the water tower of what appears to be a person moving around. This is not my video, by the way. I just want to share that this is one of the things that was pretty compelling and, pushed this analysis forward. So really quickly, I want to throw out that talking to a few of my friends, and I've seen posts online, people are talking about the size of the figure here, whether it was a small shadow on the back of the manhole on the water tower or, if this was Sasquatch or Bigfoot. So some of the analysis that I've done, I'm going to go over and show you how we determined the exact height of that object and the exact height of the water tower. So we're going to close that down and let's just jump into it. Let's try to answer the question, was there a shooter on the water tower? Was it possible? Allegedly, the first shot came from the shooter on the roof of the AGR building and it hit Trump's ear. That shot was made at exactly 477 feet from Trump to the shooter. That is represented by the blue line right here. Trump is center stage. And at the time of the shooting, we all know this data. We've seen it online. Trump turns to the right just prior to the shot. And it's important to establish the angle that Trump was looking. And in this image, we have Trump looking to the right exactly at the moment that he was shot. He says in the RNC speech that he's looking stage left, which would be to his right, at the screen to recall some data that is available on the screen. So his eyesight is plain, if you will. If you would draw a line from the center of his head forward, is looking 90 degrees to the right, or nearly 90 degrees to the right, in reference to the podium and the stage, or the crowd rather, in front of him. So that's important. You can see he's got a left arm. His left arm is bent. His right arm is slightly extended. His right shoulder is backed away from the podium. His left hip would be placed against the podium. His left knee probably bent a little bit. His right leg extended. And he's probably given a little bit of a rest, leaning into the podium as he's looking to the right. So with that, we reference that here. And it's kind of hard to see, but this orange line is the gaze plane, as I call it, or the direction that he was looking at the time. That would be 90 degrees to the right, in reference to the area in front of the stage. So he was probably looking right at Corey at the time of the shooting and didn't even realize what he saw because it happened so fast. His eyes would be looking at the screen here. So while his face is looking straight ahead, his eyes a little bit to the right, looking and referencing the data on the big mobile LED, which is going to play a significant role in the analysis moving forward. So a couple of other lines here. We have the purple line, which is the shooter to Corey. That's 392 feet exactly. And we determine that position, again, unfortunately, around the blood spot, remaining behind at the stands. So the next important line here is the green line, and that's the tower line to Trump. That is 882 feet exactly. I've gone ahead and basically done the conversion for these lines here in the layer. This is the attribute table down here, and you can see the different lines as we select them. So tower to Trump, 882 feet, 294 yards, and 269 meters. So there's a very important obstacle that we need to analyze if we are going to determine if the shooter or supposed shooter on the water tower would even have visibility of Trump at the stage, given that this LED was up between the tower and Trump. So let's walk through how we figured that out, and we're moving forward. I do want to make a point. I'll hold off until the end of the video to relay what I think. But if you look at Trump's gaze plane, where he's looking straight ahead, there's a 9-degree offset to the left from Crooks on the roof. I should say allegedly Crooks on the roof. That shot came from 9 degrees left of center and went past his face and hit his ear. We all know at this point, if Trump was looking forward, it would have given a more broad area to hit on the side of his head. After analysis, I can tell you that this was a absolutely miraculous result. By all accounts, he should have been hit in the head, but he wasn't. So moving forward, I don't want to get stuck on that because I do want to talk about the water tower. So we have a couple of things to measure. We need to measure the height of the water tower. We need to measure the height of the LED, and we need to measure the height of the stage, because we know that Trump is anywhere from 6'2" to 6'3", depending on what sources you read online. So there's really 3 heights that we need to determine. So let's take a look at how I arrived at those heights and what that means for the analysis. And then we'll put together some trig at the end and calculate the offset angles to determine whether the shooter on the water tower had sight. This is the water tower as seen from Google Maps. And when you take an image, you can reference a known value and then determine the rest of the values at the same plane on the 2D dimension. So this water tower, I've done some research online and I'm willing to share that in my references, but I believe that this is a 200,000 gallon tank. This is a 5-column double ellipsoid water tower, and it's kind of abnormal. Most 5-column towers are 250,000 to 300,000 gallons. This is a little bit smaller and a little bit shorter than those towers with 5 columns. So that width is about 36 feet across, or exactly 36 feet across, and that is our reference line. So we know from the very top of the tower to the bottom of the tower, it's about 126 feet. I'm going to jump ahead and tell you that we took drone footage of the site, and the drone dropped down right directly over top of the manhole, and we determined that it was 126 feet above the ground, which is awesome. That validated the data that we used. With the same standards of measuring imagery, I went ahead and took the measurements from the LED screen on the site. So there's 2 screens. This is the screen that is stage right, and there's an identical screen that's stage left. This is a giant 25 by 15 foot LED screen that's trailer mounted. When they move this, the screen folds down, it drops down a little bit, and the cover slides over top of the LED screen. This is on a twin axle trailer. I found the source online of where I believe the manufacturer is for this screen and matched up. Again, that's in the credits of the references, citations of the video. You can check that out there if you'd like. But here we go. We're measuring 25. We get 15 feet on the height of the screen. And then we measure the bottom of the screen, which is important, down to the estimated ground. We're plus or minus a foot. So I measured 9 feet to the bottom. We're actually going to round up and call it 10 feet to be a little conservative. And that means that this is the top of the LED is 25 feet for all intents and purposes. Next was the stage height. And the stage height was determined by a couple of things. So we looked at the number of steps up to the stage, and on average, and per OSHA standards on metal railing and metal scaffolding and steps, each step rise height is approximately 7.5 inches. And you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps up to the stage. That comes out to 45 inches. So we add that 45 inches to Trump's 6'3" height, and we come up with a value that his head was approximately 10 feet above the ground at the time of the shooting. So we have now factored in the tower being 126 feet high, the LED being 25 feet high at the top, and then Trump's head being 10 feet high. So the line of sight from the water tower would come directly through the center of the LED to the stage. So going back to the measurements, we have the exact measurements now on a map. This is the importance of geo-rectifying the nadir image or the overhead image that we captured from Google. And with the known positions on the ground, now we're able to measure angles, distances, all of that. This helps us with the calculation that we need to run the trig. So what do I mean by that? So I've gone ahead and made this diagram, and you can pick on my drawing skills if you'd like, but this is the setup. So we have Trump on stage, we have the LED, and we have the water tower. So the distance between Trump and the LED is 100 feet. We'll just go ahead and measure that right now so I can show you, and I'm happy to show my work on everything I'm doing. You see, again, that bead line from the water tower through the LED and onto the stage is almost center of the LED screen. I'm going to go ahead and click the measure tool, and I'm going to put this on feet, and you're going to see the readout up here. So we're going to click on Trump's position, and we're going to drag it up to the center, and you see it's 100.292 feet, effectively 100 feet. There's my work. So we'll go back to the image. We'll pull it up. So from Trump to the center line of the LED is 100 feet, 782 feet from the LED to the water tower, given a line of 882 feet on the ground. Now we can measure that using trig. It's 82.5 degrees angle of incidence from the center of the water tower down to Trump's head. And we use that calculating the 10 feet. We basically, for calculation purposes, We factor the 882 feet here, the 10 feet minus 126 feet. So the side A, if you will, we calculate that at 116 feet to come up with an angle of 82.5 degrees. The LED is actually in the way of any view, any sight picture that you would have somebody on the water tower looking at Trump. Worded another way, if somebody was on the tower with a rifle, they would not be able to see Trump. That's because they would have to angle down from the horizon negative 7.5 degrees from 90 degrees straight out. And the top of the LED is at negative 7.4. So the top of Trump's head was just immediately below the LED. This tells me that somebody probably went on stage ahead of time on either on the advanced team or the advon team, maybe one of the snipers, actually took the time to go to the platform, the podium where Trump would be, making sure they got the accurate height of Trump. They looked at the LED, they looked at the water tower, and they lifted the LED to make sure the water tower was covered. That's pretty smart. So based off of data, I can say that with confidence, somebody took that into consideration, and good on them. It's important to know, I believe, what the tower view was. In the news, there's been a lot of discussion about the view from the water tower, but we haven't actually gotten good footage. So let me just show you what that looks like. This is the video from the location. So let's play this really quick. I'm going to walk through this. This was captured a few days after the shooting. This is taken from a DJI Air 2. Really quickly, as we're talking about this, I mentioned earlier in the video the importance of the ubiquity of data and how that makes it difficult for nefarious activity to take place. So I used to work for Digital Globe before I started my company. I started a company called PayPixel because of some of the needs that I saw when I was an imagery analyst. Using satellite imagery, Google Maps, Google Earth, Bing Maps, anything that's available out there, you're limited in near real-time views in a perspective that you need. And we have a ton of drones out there. We actually have 350,000 commercial drone operators in the United States alone. And I wanted a tool that I could just draw a boundary and have a drone pilot go collect that imagery for me so I can do an analysis, from the armchair, if you will, armchair quarterbacking scenarios with imagery. So a little bit of a plug for PayPixel, but we created a marketplace where we can get drone imagery on demand. And that's what happened here. So Sky Vision Drones out of Pennsylvania is a provider on the PayPixel network, and they went out and captured the footage for us. So first and foremost, I wanted to get the height of the water tower. So this is the video of the water tower looking down. You can see the stairs going up the tower and then wrapping around the top of the tank, right on top of the manhole. Right now, the drone is at 162 feet, and it's centered almost directly over top of the water tower. Next, the instructions for the drone pilot were to descend over the water tower as close as you can get without landing on it so we can get an estimate of the height of the water tower. Again, using the imagery measurement tool and method, we calculated or estimated that the tower was at 126 feet. So we're about to see, how close that was. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. And this is the smoking gun that really, when you see this should stand out to you, is hands down, without a doubt. If you had a counter sniper team on top of the water tower, this would never have happened. You can see the AGR building. You can see exactly where the shooter was. This white line right here is where they bleached the roof and washed off his remains and the blood. So he was placed right here in perfect view of the water tower. If anything comes from this video, it should be that a lesson learned in the future: put your counter snipers in a position where they can see the entire area and let them do their job effectively. I have no doubt in my mind that the PSD team, the detail that was on the ground, did a great job. I don't want to go into the details of who was on that team, or whether they were females or qualified or not. That's out of the scope of this video. I want to stick to the facts. This is a incredibly hard view to swallow. Being a former private security detail myself, being an expert marksman myself, I look at this and struggle with how somebody was not placed on the water tower during the security detail. So again, we go back. here's the view. We're going to do a 360, and then the pilot is going to descend over the water tower, and this is where it stops. So he's about a foot away from the manhole. He's visibly looking at the water tower, and he's at 127 feet. So this validates the 126 feet. Going back to the analysis, the conclusion is that the LED would have blocked the view of Trump's head from the tower. So in conclusion, if there was a second shooter and looking at that video, there very well could have been somebody up on the top of the tower. I've seen a couple things via the Freedom of Information Act where Mayorkas from the Homeland Security was asking if anybody cleared the tower, if a drone was approved, that the tower was cleared. So there's a question. And from that document online, it would seem that they didn't know. They didn't know if the tower was clear or not. That's a pretty bad situation. If this is a person on the tower, which looks like it could be, they were not able to get a shot off on Trump because they couldn't see him. Period. I can say that confidently based on the analysis we just did. Lastly, regarding the height of the shadow, this is actually an adult male height. It's not a it's not Sasquatch, it's not Bigfoot. How did I come up with that? Here you go. We know from the tower measurements, this measurement here is 36 feet wide. I can also calculate the top of the tower being 4.5 feet. So there's our reference line of 36 feet across the tank. This height here is 4.5. And now we go in and we have to be a little bit creative. You can see the bottom of the tank, and right here kind of blows out a little bit. That's the bottom of the manhole, top of the tank, and then the top of the manhole. So we go to the most white grouping that would represent the top of the manhole and drag that reference line down to the base of the manhole opening and top of the tank. That's 4.5. Measuring the top of the shadow to the bottom of the shadow is 5.45. That is a man-sized element, almost 5.5 feet. Now, this person isn't standing straight up. This person is actually, looks like their back is turned. And by the way, for reference, from the point of view of the water tower, looking from the rally site to the water tower, the steps for the water tower go down behind it. So this person looks like they are leaving the water tower, going down the steps. You don't see their feet. So they're a little bit farther behind the water tower, and they're not standing right on top. You don't see the bottom of their feet. You see their ankles. So this person is probably either 5'11" to 6'1". You can see them, again, moving towards the back of the ladder going down. That is a human-sized object on top of the water tower. And if this is unedited film or unedited video from the site, there was somebody on top of the water tower, but that person was not able to get a shot off. And likely they were not able to know ahead of time whether they could get a shot off. So they had to climb up to the water tower to look through the scope, only to determine that they did not have a shot of the podium. So they were let down, I'm sure. So anyways, that concludes my analysis of the shooting. I'm happy to provide any data that I have. Feel free to reach out. Also, I'll provide the link in the comments to the drone video. There's images and video from that perspective. If you are pressed and you want to reach out and purchase that, you're welcome to do so. Again, the link for that is in there. You can contact the provider at their email or their phone number if you'd like to reach out and find out how you can get a hold of that imagery. Thanks for watching. Take care and have a great night. Bye.